All right, you guys, welcome back to the Integration Code where embodiment really meets awakening. I'm your host, Kaylin Rutkowski, conscious coach, facilitator, and guide in the realms of deep state work, nervous system healing, and all things spirituality. This space is really for those walking the path of remembrance, for those of you who are learning not only how to awaken, but how to live awake. Here, we explore the arts of integration, weaving insight into embodiment, spirit into the body, and really expansion into your everyday life. Because I am a firm believer that awakening is not the end of the journey, but it's really where embodiment begins. So, if you're someone who craves depth, devotion, and transformation, you're in the right place. Today, you guys, I have a treat for you. Today, I'm going to bring in a transmission from actually our private community. Me and one of my partners over at Pure Mind, where we specialize in at-home psychedelic care for healing, awakening, transformation, have really been focusing on cultivating community and creating safe spaces where people can really come together and learn. So in our community, we've been hosting, different master classes, transmissions, group coaching sessions, breath work, activations, you name it. We're just weaving it all in. And it's been really fun. And there's a part of us that wants to share this with more people. So today I'm going to share a conversation that we had around shifting our baseline and why this is so crucial when you are really desiring to heal or transform in any way. So hope you guys like it. Let me know in the comments. And without further ado, let's dive in.
Hi everyone, it's Howie and Kaylin from Pure Mind here. Hope your week is going amazing. In today's transmission, we're going to talk about a topic that a lot of our clients have been asking about, and that is shifting the baseline of your nervous system. And this is really powerful because sometimes when it comes to transformation or making changes in our life, it can seem really challenging, and oftentimes it's because we're still operating from the exact same place that created the struggle in the first place. And we go through different phases of the journey. So this isn't about one way being the right way, one way being the wrong way. I think by now you guys know that with us, we look at things in phases. But this is important as we're moving forward. We're moving out of kind of victimhood, survival programming. How do we actually establish that new baseline? Is there anything you wanted to touch on first, Kaylin, before we dive in?
Yeah, I actually want to share with the client story because it's really relevant and it just actually happened right before we hopped on. So the stars aligned. I started working with this client about 18 months ago. And when she first started our program, she honestly was in a really dark place. She was actively considering no longer being here and had a lot of suicidal ideation and really felt like she was just existing, going through the motions, being in survival. And today we actually had a call and she was saying how she realized for the first time today that she was no longer living in that place and that there was a part of her who could care less to live. And now she is seeking out opportunities for joy, for aliveness. And told me, she's like, for the first time, I feel like I'm really rediscovering who I really am. And I don't know if I've ever really been that. And why I'm pulling this in to start this is like, this is the power of shifting your baseline. This is the power of really getting a nervous system out of survival. And, like how I was saying, you really can't solve a problem from the same level of consciousness that created it, right? And so many times we have clients coming into our programs who are really just like at the bare minimum, right? Like, what do I need? How do I get to tomorrow? When is this going to be over? Will I have enough, right? So there's such a deeper invitation to enjoy your human experience, to awaken aliveness, expression, authenticity by working with your nervous system state and shifting your baseline. So today is like a really powerful conversation and I'm happy that you guys are here for it.
That's So amazing. And I think it's the power of sticking with it. Doing this work, we can go from
Yeah.
total hopelessness to really actually getting excited about the journey again. Of course, there's still ups and downs, but I think that's part of the understanding of the journey. And part of the baseline state is a relationship to the journey.
Yes.
So that kind of segues into like, what are we talking about with the baseline state? And I'll just touch on it and then I'd like for you to elaborate, Kaylin. But for me, there's really two main areas that most of us operate from. So our baseline's either in like this hyper vigilant survival mode, which if you think about it is very real to the body, like it's experiential. So at a certain point in your life, you really were a victim. And that's what kind of anchors in that state. So we don't want to look at that as like totally wrong. Like, oh my God, I'm living in survival. It's like, of course you are. You've been through a lot. Like, that's normal. However, there's a point where our environment changes. Like we're no longer a kid or we're no longer in that toxic relationship to where now we actually have agency. We have choice in how we want to relate to our life moving forward. And that's what shifts the baseline. It's that posture towards life. That I'm no longer being crushed by life, but I'm actually in a dance or a rhythm with it. Is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think everything you said, absolutely, I completely agree with. And I think, too, people confuse baseline state with like high vibe. We've noticed that a lot in our containers. So I just want to like kind of speak to that kind of nuance as we get started. This baseline state isn't about being like high vibe and happy all the time. That's not what we're speaking about. We're speaking about like what is that natural like cadence or rhythm that your nervous system finds when it's not activated and when it's not resting, right? What does that look like for you? And for so many of us, we have like our foot on the gas, right? It's so much activation, it's so much stimulation, it's so much anxiety that we really don't even feel into our own rhythm or our own energy on a day-to-day basis, right? There's this huge disconnection from our bodies. And you were speaking a little bit about like the environment piece too, and I think that people don't really realize how important your environment is when you are desiring to transform. And I mean like in all forms, your relationship, your home, your job, right? The activities that you're investing your time in, the music you're listening to, the food that you're eating, like what am I energetically consuming that is literally becoming me and that is affecting or influencing my baseline, right? So there's just so many different kind of like things that really contribute to what that state gets to look like, but it really is this relationship that you begin to cultivate through the connection to the body, right? You can't begin, right? You can't even begin to have awareness of a baseline if you're so disconnected from your body. So first the work is just about like getting really curious about what is going on in here on a day-to-day basis. Like what does my energy look like? Do I notice moments where I'm really high and really anxious, or when I'm really numb and disconnected? And this isn't the place to like judge or fix it or really like analyze it, but just starting by getting curious about like what is happening underneath the level of like the mind and the intellect, and really getting into like the language and the rhythm of the body.
Exactly. And to your point about the mind becomes the place that's easiest to escape into when we're actually in victim consciousness, or we're actually in an environment where we don't have a lot of free will. So if I'm in a situation as a kid where my parents neglect me or abuse me, the list can go on and on with that, the mind becomes a safe haven because it's too overwhelming in the body for your consciousness to stay there. So we start to dissociate up into the head. And that's why so much is around mindset. And like if
Mm-hmm.
I just get my mindset right, then somehow I'll be able to control my life. But
Yeah.
the thing is, the mind is really just a safe haven, like you're escaping into an idea of the future, which actually pulls you out of the present moment. So there's a part of that that's actually there for preservation when you really don't have the agency to make a choice to leave the situation. Then this
Mm-hmm.
is how we survive, is through dissociation into the mind. But you can maybe start to see that the mind alone, that'll work when you're in victim consciousness. But mindset starts to fail over time because the invitation, like Kaylin mentioned, is to come back to the body, to get curious about what's actually going on emotionally and energetically, because now you have the environment in which you can start gently stepping back into it where it won't literally threaten your life if you do it. Is there anything you want to add to that, Kaylin?
Yeah, I love this perception about like mindset not being enough because it's really not. I have been in the coaching space, you guys, for a long time, and I've worked with tons of people. And if mindset was enough, most of us would be living the life we want. Because how many of you have a conscious desire to create something, to be something, to do something, and you feel every fiber in your being saying, yes, I want this. I want to go this way. Yes, 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 yes. But for some reason, you can't make it happen, right? Mindset isn't enough, right? So we have these conscious desires, but we also have the subconscious, and the subconscious will trump that every single time. And this is what holds our patterning, right? Our survival instincts, our traumas, right? So until we really start working with like the underlying kind of structure of why we are the way we are and how we show up the way we are and how we move and how we relate, we're never going to be able to consciously choose something that our body views as a threat, that our body feels isn't safe, right? So again, like there's this beautiful way that there almost starts to form this intersection between the mind and the body where they come together as allies, where it's like, yes, have that desire, get that thing on your mind, but then let's drop in and see, well, how does that feel to my body? Is there any resistance? You know, is it expansive? Is there any beliefs? Is there any ways of being that go against that? Right? And that is really the art of integration. That really is what happens when the mind, the body, and the spirit are all working in coherence to create the life that you want to create and to really create that baseline or that overall frequency that you are every day. Right?
Exactly. And mindset is important, like you mentioned, but in integration with everything else. Because I like
Yeah.
to think of the mind, it's like if you're looking down at the earth from an airplane, that's kind of like being in your mind. It's like, oh, I can see where I want to go. Like I can see that that's the path I want to take. And from that perspective, you're not actually hiking that path. So it feels easy from the airplane because you just see it. So that's why we find so much safety in the mind because we're not in the body where we have to feel the ups and downs of going up the steep hills and walking through the tough terrain and all of that. So they're both true. It's just if we're ignoring the actual hiking part, which is in your body, it's like I have to hike this trail now. We're kind of missing the point of being a human on Earth. It's like you can't just look at everything from the aerial view where it feels safe and refuse to walk.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how the mind can set a direction. The mind can help establish choices that are supportive of actually walking in that direction. But when the mind gets really fixated on if it feels tough, then somehow it's wrong. Going back to your point about the high vibe, if it's
Hmm.
associating success with always feeling great and expansive, that's how you feel when you're up in the airplane, not when you're walking through the really rocky hill, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not always going to feel great. So they're both true. It's like you have the vision from the mind, and then you have the actual walking in the body. And just one other point about the mind to where it can really, it's not sabotaging us, it's just the learned experience of the mind is to keep us safe, right? So the mind becomes this overprotective mechanism because at some point we decided every time I feel overwhelmed, that's a problem, right? That's not good. Like my life is actually under threat. Well, the mind gets used to that. Like I have to predict all this stuff to keep the body safe. Well, as you start moving and shifting your baseline, the questions the mind starts asking is not how do I solve this problem, but how can I get more curious about my life?
Yeah.
What directions would I be interested in walking? So shifting the mindset is important, but if we're not in the body, we're not going to be able to actually walk the path.
Yeah. I want to add too, if this is you, welcome to the party. Everyone operates this way, right? Human beings will do everything to avoid pain and to avoid discomfort. So if you're like, oh my gosh, I do that, and you're seeing yourself in this, like, that's our human makeup, like, great. But now it's like, how can we begin to relate to the activation differently, the discomfort differently, excuse me, because I think I see this all the time where people are making this hierarchy of emotions, right? You know, these are good ones, these are bad ones, so on and so forth. And really, it's just information. Activation is information. right? It's not good, it's not bad, it's not anything. It's giving you a feedback loop through your nervous system about your internal and external reality, right? So, what gets to happen when you start noticing discomfort or fear or, jealousy or anger or whatever it is as signs of like, hey, there's this thing over here that like we're ready for you to look at. Or, hey, there's this thing that, you're saying you consciously want this, but look at this thing that isn't in alignment with that, right? It's like people desire expansion, they desire change, like please show me how I'm not being this. And then you start getting so activated and you start getting so triggered, and then you make it a problem like you're doing something wrong. It's like, no, here's the roadmap that you've been praying for, right? And it happens through the body, it happens through emotion, through sensation. And it's just learning how to, at the very base level, it's learning how to stay with yourself through it all. It's learning how to stay with yourself when things are really, really great and knowing it's temporary, right? And when things are really, really hard, also, this is hard, but I can still be here and I know it's not going to be forever, right? That really is how we change our relationship to our aliveness, to struggle, to really what it means to be human, so that we don't feel like there's all this suffering and resistance every single day along the path, right? Who wants to live like that? I don't.
Yeah, none of us want to, but we end up resisting life so much. And I know for myself, there's been different stages of that, but one that I really got lost in, kind of what you were alluding to before, is if I'm feeling low energy or if I'm feeling contraction, then somehow I'm going to manifest a shitty life because I'm
Yeah.
feeling that. And it becomes this very neurotic micromanagement of your emotions, which just causes you to burn out. Because the
Hmm.
emotions you don't have to take credit for. It's like things ebb and flow. You don't have to like it all either. Sometimes the most honest thing to say is, I hate the part of the hike I'm in right now. But you know what? I don't have to like it. I don't have to like it. Because if you think about preference, you have to have contrast to even have preference.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you're just in this static state. So if you want to experience something that you really do like and prefer, well, by definition, you would have to know what the opposite feels like too. So
Yeah.
at the very least, if you're going through a part where it's like, I really do not like what I'm in right now, great. You're actually getting to experience the opposite so you can have a journey of experiencing the part that you do like.
Yeah. I
So
love.
if we start taking or stop taking credit for all of it, like it's some sort of moral failure that you're going through a tough season, or that it's going to be like that forever, and just like, hey, it's a tough season, I'm going to grow a lot from it, I don't have to like it, but can I not abandon myself in it?
Yeah.
And Kaylin and I both have young kids. It's that example of, if your toddler's throwing a tantrum, and I know we talk about this a lot, you don't have to pretend to like that. No one
Hmm.
likes that. But are you going to abandon your kid just because they're acting in a way that you don't like, or just because they're overwhelmed? Of course not. You're going to be there for it even if you don't like it. So it's the
Yeah.
same thing with the body. Maybe I'm feeling jealousy. Maybe I'm feeling scarcity. Maybe I'm feeling fear. Great. I don't have to like the way those things feel, but I refuse to abandon my body when it needs me the most. So if we
Hmm.
can start getting in that rhythm, that's what really steadies the baseline, because your posture is unconditional. It's like, I don't need you, body, to feel any certain way for me to be with you.
Yeah.
And that's what really makes it steadier. Not that you're not going to have ups and downs, you're just not resisting life anymore. It's like, it's a down period. It will change. I'm going to learn and grow a lot from it, so I might as well be present here.
Yeah. I will say too, I think something that can be helpful is really disassociating like yourself from the emotion, right? So a lot of people will say, I am sad, I am depressed, I am angry. And it's not that that's wrong, but sometimes it can create more of like this loop of like shame and judgment, like how he's saying that I'm doing something wrong or I shouldn't be feeling this way. So instead of like I am sad, it's like I'm experiencing sadness. I'm experiencing frustration. I'm noticing anger, right? Because then it kind of puts more of like this objective lens where you can kind of start to look at it not from this place of like shame, but like, like, why is this here? You know? And another kind of like framework that's really supported me with this is really trying to hold the belief again, that like I'm not the one generating these thoughts, these feelings, these emotions, right? Again, like I'm the witness of them. And when I can really put myself as like, I'm actually not responsible, I'm just the one experiencing and witnessing, and what am I noticing? It's a lot easier to move through and to process versus thinking that like I'm the one who's in a bad mood or I'm the one who's sad on Saturday. You know what I mean? So sometimes just kind of like putting one layer of separation between you and the emotion or you and the trigger can really help you to begin to see and to process it from a different lens versus like again shame, judgment, this kind of like I'm doing something wrong kind of mentality. So I think that can be helpful too.
Exactly. And actually, in some other languages, the way they talk about emotions is like they're wearing emotions.
Yeah, I love that.
Like I'm wearing sadness. And it's like, yeah, I'm just wearing the color blue today. So
Mm-hmm.
like when you create that one step removed, you disentangle it from your identity, like, oh,
Yes.
I'm always sad or whatever. It's like, no, I'm just wearing this color. How can I support myself in this? And I think this is really important with this because sometimes it's like, well, I know I'm doing behaviors that are contributing to the way I feel. So we do have to take ownership of where are we maybe not supporting ourselves. Maybe we have certain things that we're doing that we know contribute to being low energy or to being anxious or depressed. So we do want to make sure that we're keeping our side clean because
Yeah.
if we're not supporting ourselves, and of course that shame is going to come in. It's like, well, there's truth that sometimes you're just going to be sad and it's not because of anything you did.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you might be resisting your life and generating more sadness because of behaviors. So, and Kaylin and I talk about this a lot. How can I start supporting myself through my life? How can I start nourishing myself? And usually those things are pretty basic, right? Sleep, water, good food, exercise, getting outside, getting in nature. Like we all know these things, but are we really doing them? Because if we're not doing those things, we can't expect to be in the rhythm of life.
Yeah.
We're kind of creating our own resistance by not taking care of the basics. So we always want to start there. Am I covering my end of things at the simple, basic survival level? If I can say yes to that, most of the time, like 80-20 rule is what I like to think, then we can surrender the rest. Because I might be doing all that stuff right and still going through a tough period of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. I'm doing what I can. Life clearly is situated for me to grow and learn in this environment. So I'm doing my part. I'm surrendered to the other part. That's a nice rhythm to get into. But if we're like, yeah, I'm not sleeping, I'm not drinking water, I'm eating crappy food, I'm not exercising. Well, it's like you can't just expect life to just show up. Sometimes we can not be taking care of ourselves and life still seems to be going okay. But we really want to make sure that we're taking ownership of our end of things too.
Yeah, and I think this ties really beautifully into baseline, right? Because all the time we have people who will come in and they say, well, like, I don't even know what I desire. I wouldn't even know what that looks like, right? And they're not lying because when your nervous system doesn't have what it needs, there's no way to tap into what's next or desire or potential or expansion, right? Because it's like, oh my gosh, are we going to make it till tomorrow? I'm just worried about tomorrow. I'm just worried about dinner. Will I have money to eat? Right? So it's like you cannot even begin to dream bigger, to think bigger, until you really start addressing, like, I call it like your energetic hygiene, right?
Yeah.
Am I well nourished? Did I have enough food? What are the things like that are personal for me that help me to show up in the energy to live my life and to be resourced throughout my life, right? Like you have to start having these non-negotiables, right? What are these non-negotiables that really allow you to be a well-sourced and resourced human, right? Start there. Once you start filling up that cup and you're well nourished from the inside, emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, well, then you can start dreaming bigger and you can start thinking about desire and expansion and awakening potential. But like right now, we have to figure out how to get a nervous system that's trapped and bracing for impact to learn how to breathe again. And like this is the baseline work at the heart of it, right? At the root of it.
Exactly. And if you think of it like tending to a garden, It's like if you're not watering, tilling the soil, picking the weeds, like how can you expect your garden to do well? Even if the conditions are perfect, right? It's still going to be kind of a mess. It's not a guarantee though, and I think this is the big difference between co-creation, relationship with life and trying to control life. Because you could do everything right on your end. You could be watering, planted, keeping your head down, and the macro season just doesn't support a big harvest.
Yeah.
It's like I was expecting spring to rain a lot on top of everything I was doing, and it didn't. And so I didn't get, a bountiful harvest this year. But through that, I get to a lot's revealed within me, like surrender and getting to feel disappointed and frustrated and all these things. So if we're owning our side, we can hang our hat on that. We can really trust that life will position us where we need to go. None of us are going to actively choose to feel disappointed, right? Like, none of us are going to choose to feel scarcity. Life, if that's important for us to go through, is part of our path and our growth and evolution, then it kind of has to position us in those situations because we wouldn't pick them off the menu of life. And I know a lot of the new age stuff is like, well, the universe is just a vending machine. Like, if you're the right frequency, you can get whatever you want. It's like, sometimes that's true. Like, we've all had those moments where it's like, I manifested that exact thing. But how many things have gone ass backwards from the way you thought they were going to go or the way you wanted them to go?
Yeah.
What's that about? Right? So the more we can be like, sometimes I'll get what I want. Sometimes I'll get the opposite of what I want. If I'm maintaining my side of things, then I can trust that I'm doing what I need to support my body, support my nervous system, and I can surrender the rest. That's a posture that's anchored in the present moment. You no longer need to escape into the future for safety because you know that no matter what life brings you, you have the nourishment to get through it.
Yeah. I love that. And I just think it's so true. Like, you're not always going to get what you want or your preference in life, but I really do trust that we're always provided with what we need, right? If you're saying you want X, Y, and Z, the universe is creating that perfect environment experience for you to literally become and evolve into that, right? So, again, when we're talking about having all this resistance and suffering, it's usually because you are resisting what is. You are resisting reality. And instead of resisting it, why don't you just get curious? Like, what is here? What is showing up? What are these obstacles? What are these opportunities? And how can I meet that fully in my power? Because there's the key to shift right there. It's not about needing the perfect conditions or when X, Y, and Z happen. It's about right here, right now. How do I show up fully and meet that? How do I show up
Exactly.
fully in my power? Right?
Into the getting what you need at like the just basics of surviving as a human, I really believe that we, in general, like I don't want to speak in absolute terms, but we have access to water. We have access to good enough food, to air, to relationship, to nature. Like we have those things, even if you're like living at the bare minimum, you're
Mm-hmm.
still here, right? If you didn't have any of those things, you wouldn't still be here. So we are supported at the basic survival level, but yet somehow we still defer away from it. Like we won't give our body the water. We
Yeah.
won't give our body the food. We won't give our body the rest. And then the body's like, what the hell? You want me to somehow reach your dream and you're not even giving me the fuel and the nourishment to get there? Like it doesn't
Yep.
make any sense. So sometimes it's like you just have to dial in the basics to make sure that you're doing everything on your part for the bigger season to change. And sometimes the other part of getting what you need, I think, is more of the growth and evolutionary part of it. So it's like if you need to go through some trials and tribulations and tests and challenges, well, great, that's going to strengthen you. And you're probably not going to like it very much. You're not going to like going through tough times, but it's going to give you what you need to actually become that person of your dreams.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like invalidating the dream, it's just the path to getting there might require growth,
Yeah.
right? And growth usually doesn't happen in our comfort zone. This is probably going to get kind of uncomfortable on your journey to getting there. But just to tie that part up, you can get in a rhythm with discomfort to where it's not layered with extra resistance. It's like, yeah, it sucks, but I don't have to make it impossible by continuing to refuse it.
Yeah.
How can I stay resourced in this part that sucks and keep moving, keep staying curious, knowing that eventually it will change?
One thing I want to tie into this that feels important is that on an energetic level, you guys, your baseline is directly correlated to your capacity, right? This is why this work is so important. So, like we're saying, you get what you need. You get what you need to evolve, to expand your capacity to hold it, right? Think about, you always hear the example about people who become a millionaire, right? And then lose it just like that. Their nervous system was not at a level that it could hold wealth, their identity, their behaviors, right? So, again, trust your season. If you're in a season that feels challenging, there's probably a reason or something that you are literally being prepared for, right? Again, so stop resisting and making it wrong and get curious about what's here and what's being called forward in me in this season, right? I just think that's important because we all the time think that our identity is going to stay the same as we transform or like get these bigger goals and desires, and it's like, no, like that next level is going to have to require a next level of self. Energetically, I cannot talk today. Energetically, physically, right, on a nervous system, mentally, right? So again, like the baseline is so correlated to your capacity to hold it, right? It's one thing to create it, it's another thing to have the capacity to sustain and hold it.
Exactly. And using that example of like a millionaire who loses it all, someone that goes from having a lot to losing it all, that's actually the process of stripping down where the entire capacity is built. Because they are able to compare like having it all, but not having the identity to support it, to losing it all, where they actually develop the identity. Because from rock bottom, if you're willing to move from that place, that's what anchors in the identity. Because we like to think like, oh, if I had $1 million, I would start acting differently, or I would donate to charity, or I would start my mission. It's like, no, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Because if you can't do it now, there's no one different that makes you. Like
Mm-hmm.
getting the thing doesn't change you fundamentally. That's an inside job. So if it's like, I want to be a philanthropist, right? It's like start giving your time or what you can in terms of money now. So if it's like if I was a millionaire, I'd give 10% of my money to charity. Well, give 10% of what you can right now if that's actually who you are. Because life will support who you are at the identity level. And I know Kaylin with us and building Pure Mind, it's like there's been periods where it's like, well, once we have this many clients, we'll do these things. It's like, how do you support people now?
Yeah.
You already have a lot of people in there. How do you become that now? What are you waiting for?
Yeah.
We want the conditions to change your identity, and that's not how it works. Eventually, it's like, I'm done waiting, is where a lot of us get to. I can't wait until I'm dead to start moving. So you start playing the hand you're dealt, and if you do that and you combine that with making sure that you have the resources through the choices you make, now you're actually moving in a way of someone that's different. And then eventually life will catch up to that. But that doesn't happen in our own timing. But you can know that, hey, I am taking ownership of what I do have control over. I'm not handing that part over to the universe. And then I'm trusting that I'm going to go through a process to get, to where I dream of going. So I think that's a really good example because we can all relate to the money one. And I found for myself, the more I was like, the money will come. Like I believe that. Like I believe this mission's supported. But like I need to become who I need to become first. So like let's just start doing it now. And it's been really cool to see how that's worked.
Yeah. And I think too, like, this is really the power of integration, right? This is when you begin to take radical responsibility over your life and over yourself, right? It's not waiting for the conditions or something external. It's like, what am I choosing every single day? How am I showing up? How am I moving through life? What is my posture towards life, right? Like, when you start operating from that way, you will always go first, right? So you start there, life will meet you, right? Life isn't going to go first and then you're going to catch up. It's never going to work like that. And all the people that I've coached that I've seen it happen like that, they lose it just as fast, right? There's a beauty in becoming, and sometimes it's messy, and sometimes it's challenging and uncomfortable and feels so unfamiliar and just this new terrain. And that literally is the only place that you will meet different aspects of yourself and truly evolve. right? That's when we awaken our gifts, our potential, right? All these things that we never could have experienced if we would have stayed in the same identity or same ways of being that got us up until this point, right? So it's being willing to actively choose to create the life that you're saying that you want, right? It's one thing to want it, it's another to actually walk it and take the action every day. Messy, stumbling, one step forward, two steps back. It's like, how do I keep showing up and stay devoted and committed to this version of who I choose to be or who I am desiring to be, right? And that really is why we hold these group containers and why we do this. It's to support you guys to integrate this on a deeper level, right? So it's not just about what happens, in the medicine or during your sessions, but really how you begin to walk your life every single day. Like that's what we care about.
And that is the identity. And I think there's something interesting, like with what you mentioned about that messy middle or that gray area. That's the hardest part because, like, as you start to become someone different, it's like, well, where's the evidence?
Yep.
Where's the evidence outside of that internal transformation? And what I found for myself is when I really almost didn't believe that it was going to change outside, but I was going to do it anyway because it was who I was becoming. It was me. That's when things started changing. So I almost weirdly had to get to this point of like, it might not change. But you know what? I can't wait around for things to change before I get my life going. So who am I even if they don't change? How do I want to show up? And it created this degree of like less attachment to the outcomes, which we're not really in control of anyway. But I am in control of how I show up based on the rhythm of life. And so just a quick example, you might feel really, really tired, just exhausted on life right now. That's okay. You can still show up from that lens. That means nothing about you. The baseline is actually your posture towards that. So if you're really tired, well, maybe I should hydrate more. Maybe I should rest more. Maybe I should do really gentle movement. Maybe I should go for a walk in nature. These are things that I can do when I'm exhausted, right? Like they're not taxing energetically. These are things that actually charge my batteries up so that I can actually show up fully when the season does change. So I think there's something really interesting in that because it has nothing to do with the way you feel. And I think this is so important because we confuse alignment with a feeling
Mm,
when alignment's actually a step removed from feeling. It's how am I in relationship to what's happening in my life? If I'm feeling tired, can I use that as a cue to give my body what it needs in terms of resources to feel more energized? If I'm feeling more energetic, okay, maybe I'm more externally focused in service, in doing a harder workout, in creating something.
yeah.
So it's less about like, oh, I feel like crap. I must have done all this stuff wrong. Question number one, am I resourced? Like, am I giving my body what it needs? And if the answer to that in general is yes, then you can trust that, hey, it's just a slow day or a slow week. Like, really use this time for yourself, right? Use this time to recharge your batteries. And then on the opposite, and I'm giving myself what I need and I'm just feeling great. I'm feeling on fire. Awesome. Go save the world, right? So we can trust those cues, but if we're not giving ourselves what we need at the baseline, it's going to be really hard to see what's what.
Yeah. I love that. And I think, too, like when you're speaking about alignment not being a feeling, I think that's really important because it's always about chase what feels good and chase what resonates, right? We hear that all the time, especially in the spiritual space, personal development space. You hear it all the time. But I think for me, like alignment is truth.
Yeah.
And it's truth to my essence, my authenticity, but also to like what is alive right here in this present moment. And if my body is saying, hey, you're tired or you're sick and you need to rest, but my conscious mind is saying I need to do all these other things, who knows better, your mind or your body, right? So I really love that you brought that in because I think, yes, if you are someone who really honors alignment, similar to myself, then you start by honoring what's true. Start there. If every day you're connecting to what's true for you right here in that moment, you're always going to be going in the right way. You're always going to be doing the right thing. Even if it doesn't look like it or feel like it in that moment, like you can trust your body, right? Your body is incredibly wise. And so many of us live completely disconnected. Even like think about how many times you have to use the restroom and you'll
Yeah.
be putzing around the house and you won't go and you keep doing things and your body's like, hello, hello. Oh no, you can hold it. You can hold. Why? You're hungry. Why don't you feed yourself? You're tired. Why don't you sleep? Right? So it's like all these little silly things, but then people are always, how do I get more in tune? How do I become more intuitive? It's like you don't even listen when you're hungry. How are you going to connect with your body
Yeah.
for deeper, more important things, right? So it seems silly when we start, offering these ideas like start with truth, start with what you need, start with fueling your body. And people are like, no, but I want to be intuitive. No, but I want this thing. That's like, you have to understand, like, there's a pathway to that. There's a capacity, there's a building of the muscle, and it first starts here at that baseline in the body, right? Addressing what you need so you can start to tap into what you want and what you desire.
Exactly. And if you override those primal signals, like what message is that sending to your body? It's like they don't listen to a damn thing that I say.
Yeah.
So neglected, right? My needs are not being met by you. Like you won't give me what I need to thrive at a basic level, and then you want me to somehow figure everything else out. And so I think it's really interesting, and this kind of ties in with the work we do with ketamine and expanded states. You cannot override your body through expansion and not ground it through taking care of yourself.
Hmm.
Because eventually it's like, oh, I'm expanding my consciousness. Like I know everything about the universe. It's like fantastic. And then you just get sick for 2 months because your body's like, yeah, I let you play that, but like now I need my time.
Yeah.
So with all this work, it's like the chop wood, carry water. Like you have to bring it back to present moment reality in the physical with like body, I'm here. Like I'm expanding in service to you. So you want to show your body that these things are actually translating, start listening to its subtle cues of just like the basic things. And then you'll start realizing, oh my God, my body's communicating to me in way more ways than just hunger or needing to go to the bathroom or needing to get rest because you're listening to that. It's like, oh my God, my body like kind of knows what direction to go. Like my body's like I'm feeling the pull to go talk to that person, right? It starts like adding layers to what it's communicating, and I think that's where things get really exciting.
Yes. And I think too, just like a little other like side note to pull in with that is you don't have to know why something's happening in the body. Like you don't have to know why your heart's fluttering or why you feel the pull to do this. Like that's part of like the trusting the intuitive nature and intelligence of the body. We don't have to know why. There doesn't have to be certainty. That's like the part of us that wants to kind of like control and manipulate reality. And a really good example of this is I was walking into the gym earlier today. I was happy and I was in great mood. I was having an awesome morning. All of a sudden, I noticed my heart rate got really quick, really fast. And this was just walking into the locker room. And I started to feel kind of activated. I have no idea why or where it came from. It could maybe not have been mine, even. It could have been picking up on someone else's, but I noticed it was there. And the old me would have just been rushing through the morning and trying to just go get started with my workout. But now, knowing what I know and becoming resourced enough in the body, I took a minute, I sat on the bench, I put my hands on my heart, and I just breathed for a few minutes. And I said, I'm here. We're okay. We're safe. I took a few minutes just to feel it, to breathe. I still don't know why it was there. It doesn't matter. That's the point. It doesn't matter. But just bringing awareness to the sensation, to the information, to the activation that was happening was enough to shift and transmute or move through whatever it was, right? So don't get stuck in this like healing loop in the mind and in the body. Like, I'm feeling this. What does this mean? And where is this coming from? And da 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 da. Like, we see people do that all the time. Just be a witness. All these things want a space just to be felt, just to be witnessed, just to emote. And you start doing that more regularly, well, then you start getting the deeper layers and kind of meanings of it organically. But it doesn't come from forcing it with the mind, it comes through relationship with the body. And I think that part's really important to bring in.
Yeah, that present moment attention, I think is how you keep the slate clean, so to speak, with the body. Because when we're ignoring the body and it's not having its needs met, like it just wants our attention, right, to feel something, and we're just ignoring all of it, It's like by the end of the month or the year, like it has a laundry list of crap it needs to talk to you about. And this is what we like view as this healing process. I have to process all these emotions and all this stuff because I keep ignoring the conversation. That conversation is not going anywhere. It's just going to have to be a longer, more drawn out one when you eventually do pay attention to the body. So, like with what Kaylin's mentioning with her experience at the gym, by doing that in real time and not pushing it off till later, you're keeping the slate clean. Like the dialogue remains open. You don't have this big backlog that's like weighing you down at the end of the day or the month or the year. It's like, hey, we're good. Like the body knows when I call for her, she comes.
Yeah.
This is really exciting because then you can just live your life. You don't have to be a helicopter parent. Like, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? It's like, dude, I know you'll listen when I call. So
Yeah.
just go live, right?
Yeah. I will
So I
say,
think,
oh,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was
No
going to say, I
worries.
think this part is really important too, really relationship to baseline, because what ends up happening is if I would have took the other route and I would have ignored the activation, instead of it just doing the loop and being felt and leaving the nervous system, that energetic imprint would have then become enmeshed in my body and in my nervous system, right? So again, what happens is we have so much activation, trauma, all these, feedback loops that never got an opportunity to leave. That literally starts to become your baseline, right?
Yep.
You plug enough anxiety, anger, frustration, right? Numbness into the body. It's like putting too many like kinks in the hose. It's like, I love that analogy, right? That's all that's going to be felt, right? Because it never got an opportunity. So it's building, 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 and to essentially have this huge release or outburst that it's been craving for you to finally let it be felt, right? So this is important if you are someone who's really wanting to shift your baseline to be at a more regulated, I won't even say high vibe, a more regulated way. It starts through your relationships with your emotions and sensations, like I did at the gym. You start doing that regularly, it's going to give this baseline an opportunity to finally kind of settle, to get those kinks out, to really begin like flowing energy in a clean, cohesive way, right?
Exactly. And I think the body's not doing it to torture us. It's just like this conversation is important. I tried having it with you there,
Mm-hmm.
and you didn't want to have it there. But like I'm still going to have it with you at some point. So I'm going to hold on to it. But the more conversations that we don't want to have because they feel uncomfortable or whatever, it's like now the body's carrying around so much and it's
Mm-hmm.
exhausting.
Yeah.
But as soon as we're like, all right, body, let's go through the list. Like let's clean this thing up. Now you're operating cleanly. You have coherence. The body's not having to carry extra baggage around. And you'll be shocked with how many things move into order and out of chaos because the body feels like it's being heard and felt. So this is super important. And one other thing about patterns, because I think it's fun to see patterns, right? And there's nothing wrong with being curious about like how are things connecting and whatnot. But once you start living more in the body and in the present moment, most of the patterns are actually going to come from looking towards the past. So like if you think of hiking up a trail, and like let's say you're going up a mountain. Okay, you're this far up on the trail, you can look backwards and be like, oh my God, I can see how the trail connected from this vantage point of looking back of a lived experience. Because your lived experience only comes from the present and the past.
Yeah.
Like you're not living in the future in your body. So, what many of us do for safety is we try to prophesize our life ahead of time so that we can avoid all of the obstacles along the path. But that's just kind of like magical thinking, guesswork. It's not really coming from a place of like you having that intel is going to prevent you from going through necessary challenges to help you grow. Like, oh, I'm going to like read in a book how to climb a rock wall so that I don't actually have to do it. It's like that doesn't work. Like you're going to have to do it. You're going to have to figure it out, and it's going to be a lot different than reading it in a book. But you can look back. Like maybe you went through a really chaotic period in your life and you feel like you're coming out of it, and you look back and you're like, "Oh my God, it actually makes sense that I had to go through X, Y, and Z to become the person that I am today." And even though that sucked, I'm grateful that I went through it because I couldn't have just read about this in a book and actually embodied it. So that's where you can kind of see the patterns of the chaos looking in hindsight. And so that's fun too. If you are curious from a mental level, look backwards. Look at your life and like how far you've come. That can help you build confidence in moving forward that, hey, it's always worked out. Even when it sucked, like I'm still here, I'm still kicking. I think that's the most helpful way of using your mind if you want kind of evidence to build more trust in life.
Yeah, I love that. I think too, really just to like sum up like this for you guys is that really like baseline work really starts with awareness. Start with awareness because you can't shift something that you don't have sight to, right? So getting really curious about kind of what is the energy that I'm operating in? What is my baseline throughout the day, right? And noticing where it maybe ebbs and flows a little bit. After you get awareness, it's like, how do I create enough safety in this body, right? I want to create safety to be able to choose to shift and actually feel maybe for the first time. And then after that, it's really just looking at integration, actually walking and actively choosing what you say you want, even when it feels uncomfortable, right? Even when it feels scary, even when it feels unfamiliar, because that's the only way that you're going to expand the capacity in the body to actually operate and hold that level. Do you want to add anything to that?
I would just say, in terms of the action steps, the thing that's going to be the most powerful foundationally, which most of us are not doing that well, are the basics. Like we've
Mm-hmm.
really hit hard in this. Am I getting enough water? Am I getting enough sleep? Am I doing something to stoke my spiritual fire? Like really look at the values. Do I have a relationship, right? Am I prioritizing these things? Because if I'm not doing them, I can't expect life to just, pick up the tab. Like I have to make sure that I'm doing everything I can to support myself, not in a 100% or I'm failing way, but just in general, right? Like, are these things that I'm being mindful about? Am I listening to my body when it's saying I need water, right? Like, am I doing those things? Because if we're not doing that, awareness can help shed a light on that, right? Like, I'm not drinking enough water, for example. But you have to take the step on those things. Those things, like sleep's a good example. It's like, well, I'm trying to sleep, but I just like can't seem to turn my mind off. Sometimes it starts with just like setting a structure where I'm going to go to bed by 9 p.m., even if I'm tossing and turning, like that's the structure that I'm going to commit to because sleep's important. Sometimes we have to start there. It might not work perfectly right away, but I think I call these the minimum viable actions. If you're not taking action to support yourself, you're really lowering your chance to be able to navigate in a regulated way. You think you're going to be able to stay regulated if you're on 1 hour of sleep? Like, no. Or if you're so freaking thirsty or hangry, right? We all know hangry. Like, you're not going to stay regulated if these things are missing. So that would be the one part before like thinking about like I need to post every day on social media. It's like great. That can be a step, but are you doing the basics right first? That can actually support that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, I think this is a good place to close this training for today. We went really deep with you guys, which we love. And if there are questions that pop up after listening to this or during listening to this, please post them underneath the video. You can post them. I cannot talk today, you guys. Post them in the community forum. That way, we're really getting that extra touch point to really support you guys through this process. And if you want more, intimate support, head over to the group and, we can really go deeper into how to really embody this and integrate this in your own life. So we'll see you guys in the community and thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Bye.